Hello, Spiritual Center Spokane. This is Reverend Bonnie, and I'm so glad that you are here today. And apologies for starting 1 minute late, but for whatever reason, I didn't go live at 6 and had to do a restart or reboot or whatever you want to call it. So I believe in divine, perfect, right timing, and here we are together again. Happy Tuesday. Happy July 1st. Holy guacamole, you guys. It is halfway through the year plus 1 day. We are more than halfway through our year, halfway through 2025. So here we be. Let's begin by placing our hands on our heart. Just close our eyes together. Take a nice, big, beautiful breath. And feel your heart in your hands. Oh, how precious, how precious, how precious. So, again, welcome. And tonight I wanted to talk about the beauty of being alive, of aliveness itself. And there's a real difference between existing, and there's a difference between making it through, and there's a difference between holding on, and there's a difference of being alive. And there goes that cute fly, which is very much alive behind me. And for me, I can see and tell and experience when someone is fully alive, whether they are filled with incredible joy or if they are in different emotional states. I can still tell when they're connected to the now moment and they are alive. And it's such a privilege to feel the life force in your body temple. And if your attention is somewhere else, that's where meditation helps, that we focus on the breath and we have the opportunity to connect with the life force that is within us and give ourselves a respite while the divine presence within, the witness consciousness, is able to observe the functioning of the body and the rest of the consciousness that provides this beautiful awakening. It's a fertile ground. It's a very beautiful thing. And my experience is that it comes through near-death experiences, or it comes through incredible traumatic experiences that wake people up, or it comes through regular meditation. And so today I was driving in my car to a girlfriend's house that's 30 minutes away. And while I was driving, I started tearing up and I was getting very tender around the idea. And this has happened to me many, many, many times in my life. This is not like a new thing, but just so aware of the brevity of being on this planet, like aware that our spirits are eternal and our soul is where our personality and our spirit meet. It's our unique patterning, our unique ingredients for our life. Our soul is where God, where the invisible and the visible come together. It is the crossroads. It is the cross section. So there I am driving in my car to go see a girlfriend, and the tenderness of the privilege of being alive on this planet and having lived as long as I have and not knowing how much longer I will live and wanting to live so much longer just all bubbled up in me. And I became very tender and started crying. And so I have a lot of friends who are very spiritual, as you can imagine. We hang out together. And I have many friends who have resented coming to the planet because it's so hard for them. It's not enjoyable and it feels like labor a lot of the time because they are familiar with the love and the lightness of being from the other side. But here embodied, things can be so cruel and harsh and hard. And I have several friends who just can hardly wait for the day that they go home, that they get to return to their home base and they're done with planet life. Not me. I love being here. If anything else, I'm the other way around. I don't want to leave. I want to be here as long as I possibly can be here. I like being in a body. I like the experience of the senses, the five senses, and the more than five senses. I like the opportunity and the ability to create and to connect with people and to deeply love and care. And I like to create, to invent, to imagine, and I like to serve. I like to be in body. And so in the last couple weeks, a dear friend of mine, her husband passed unexpectedly. And she is in the initial part of the grieving and mourning process. And all I can do is show up. There is not a lot you can do when someone has a very immediate and close grief experience that they are processing through, um, because that first stage of shock is a real thing. And usually during that phase, you're doing so much daily task work that your mind is busy and your heart is broken. And it is such for those of us who have been in similar stages, we're aware that we're still required to function, even though there's nothing about us that can. And so it's such an interesting place to be present with someone. And then another girlfriend of mine, her nephew passed on Friday, and her nephew is about 12 years younger than us. And we used to babysit him when he was a little boy, and he passed. And so I was tuning into the tenderness around my two friends and the mourning that they are going through. And and again, my desire to stay longer on the planet. And so being in the car and tapping into that and being awake and aware of how blessed each one of us is to be here and how much attention we give to that which isn't important. And it just always reminds me that we're giving our attention away to pennies instead of giving our attention away to millions. And that's an analogy, obviously, but it's interesting because I just think of how when we are unconscious and not awake and aware of this beautiful experience called life and love and God and goodness and the divine, when we're not awake and aware of that, then our attention and our behavior goes to things that are so small. And I think of a dear friend of mine who loves his money so much that he loves his money more than he loves people. He loves his money more than he loves beauty and art. He loves his money more than he loves travel and discovery and curiosity. There is a hoarding and a love of something that is inanimate and cannot give him other than a mental experience of accumulation, cannot give joy, and yet that is a priority. And my heart breaks for him. I mean, yeah, yeah, it's a very, very curious thing. Hmm. And I've been mourning, along with many of you, the shifts that are happening in our country right now. And I'm so aware that a minority of people lead a majority of people. And that seems wrong and backwards and not right in any way. And to have the smallest thinking, most cruel behavior show up when leaders are supposed to have balance and expanded thinking and care about those they lead. That's like a prerequisite, or it's my understanding of what a prerequisite has been to leading. And so I'm having a difficult time And I mourn a lot this, I'm calling it cruelty, that is happening in our country that doesn't look like the America that I knew, that I studied, that I was told about, that I ingested, that I think of in my mind. And there's this new big, beautiful bill that is up for being passed, which will strip over 16 million of us from health coverage. And we elected people to care for us and make choices that take care of the least of us. This is the spiritual message, is that we're all in this together. There's one of us here in many multiple different forms, all together, and we help each other. Now, there was a time when I was young when people could work retail and support their family. They had full benefits. They had money to send their kids to college. They owned homes. It was a time where a working person was not considered a working poor person. That has changed. And so the changes that are being made today wouldn't have been as cruel being made 40, 50 years ago when anyone who had a job could support themselves and their family. But all of that ability has been stripped away, and our compassion has been replaced by this desire for profit and accumulation. And there's a sadness within me because I've lived long enough to feel and experience both of those. And this whole new bill that may pass any moment, but is supposed to strip a bunch of us from healthcare and create one of the biggest waves of unemployment and closures of hospitals our country has ever seen, devastating small rural communities. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. And God does. There's something bigger than me that does, but I don't. And so I have had the experience of mourning my ideas of what I thought that our country was. And so I have been, along with my friends grieving, I have been grieving the country. And then I shared last week that I lost in a small claims court experience. And I honestly believed that the judicial system was fair. And what I experienced was so less than fair that I immediately started grieving our judicial system and my perception of what it was. And maybe it used to be something other than it is now, and maybe it didn't. It was my perception. But whatever it is, there is this deconstructing of mental constructs in my mind that I know is really a good thing for me. And yet it's an interesting place to be and an interesting place to live from. And despite all of this falling apart and breaking down, I am so glad to be alive on this planet right now. I am so glad that I get to tap into my divinity. I'm glad that I get to cultivate it. I'm glad that I get to bring the light wherever I go and share it. And I'm glad I can see it at other people and that we get to connect with each other and know the light tribe that we are. And when I'm in despair, I turn away from the forms to the formless. And then I turn to the form of nature to feed my soul. So there's been a lot of nature going on, laying in the water. And this time of year in Spokane, oh my goodness, it's beautiful to lay in the river around the trees, to lay in a swimming pool surrounded by trees, to lay on the grass and look up at the sky. Oh my goodness, it is so beautiful to lean up against a tree and to have the communion between a tree that existed long before I ever did and will exist long after I do. It is one of my ancestors. And then I practice speaking desire out loud. I speak of the future I want to live in. I speak of the country that I desire to have birthed out of the deconstruction. So the deconstruction for a new emergence, and I get to play with seeing that new and experiencing it within my body temple, which is such a gift. And I get to connect with high vibrating people like those of you who are watching this YouTube video. We share a field of consciousness for which I am so grateful, and I thank you for it every single day. You are in my prayers and you are in my thoughts because we share a space, not solely on YouTube, but in consciousness, capital C, consciousness. And I also get to access it through watching other people's YouTube channels. And I get to experience high vibration through reading books that vibrate high and through writing a lot of cards of love. And I know I gave earlier this summer the assignment to write 3 cards a week. And I hope that you are doing them. And the 3 cards I suggested you write is one to somebody that you know and love and you're grateful for, and to tell them. The second is for someone you don't really know, but kind of like a grocery clerk, your doctor's office, um, just your post person, a neighbor, and it's just, a gratitude for who they are and how you show up in the world, but you'll never really know them super well, maybe. And then lastly, someone you'll never meet but has impacted your life beautifully. And those are really fun letters to write because you will never most likely meet this person, and also most likely will never get a response. But it is the feeling good of the generation of the heart that reminds us that we are all one and we're all in it together, and that we can recognize and be grateful when we are. So all of this is to say that I'm in a liminal state. And a liminal state is like walking a tightrope when you're not on one end or on the other and you're in the middle. It is like being in a chrysalis and you're not really a caterpillar and you're not yet a butterfly. You're that existential goo, which actually is called imaginal cells. I love that. I'm in the state of imaginal cells. And so my job, although I am so tempted to start filling up my calendar with activities, my job for myself is to continue to create spaciousness for me so that that butterfly might emerge. It is cultivating patience and not pushing anything, but instead leaning into everything. It is a process of feeling into what is the right next, not pushing my mind into making something the right next. It is the emergent self that I don't yet know and that I'm accessing sensually through my senses. So this week I watched the documentary The Source, which is Joe Dispenza's new documentary that goes over the medical research that's been done for the 7-day workshops that he has taught around meditation. And before the workshops, they have all these nodes put on their heads and they check brainwave activity. And 7 days later, they do the same. They drew blood. 7 days later, same thing. Did MRIs, same thing. And what they were able to see is that people who did his 7-day meditation retreats had shifted their mind so much that they had left the old patterning behind and had entered mystical states. And in entering those mystical states, a new self was created. And that new self that is created left behind old disease, left behind old body stress, left behind old patterning, left behind old limited thoughts, and emerged as this new. And so as I watched this, I recommitted to doing more studies with Dr. Joe. I went years ago to Scotland and studied with him, and it's my intent that I do some more. And I am interested in this liminal state as I am creating spaciousness for the next emergent to happen. I'm interested in calling forth miracles. And what I'm continuing to learn what I learned from the small claims court experience. But one of the things that I learned is that I'm not in charge. And I know that, you know that, we know that. And one of the misdirections of metaphysics is the idea that we have the power through our thought to create things. And although that's happened to me many times, it is not the intention behind metaphysics. It's not the intention behind mysticism. It really is to connect to the source and allow the source to use our presence for its highest good here on the planet. And so, when we do the work tonight in consciousness around meditation and prayer for miracle, we are not going to assign it to a person, place, or thing. We aren't going to ask for a miracle around money. We're not going to ask for a miracle around friendships. We're not going to ask for a miracle around healing. We are simply going to enter into the energy field of a miracle and then allow ourselves this next week to watch what unfolds. We're going to let it be a divine chance. We're going to let God choose what it is that miraculously operates through us. And a miracle to me is when we think something is impossible and it's made possible. So it's something that we just can't imagine happening that happens, or that we can't imagine knowing that we know. And so it is going to be my prayer as we do our meditation and our prayer tonight that you and I open to the miraculous of God at work in, through, and as each one of us. So let's go ahead and close our eyes and get our feet planted on the ground. And we're always grounding. We're grounding all the time. You and I are electromagnetic beings, and we ground ourselves. We ground ourselves so that the energy flow, the capacity may be greater. We ground ourselves so that we aren't energetically harmed in any way. We ground ourselves so that we may be stable and open to something bigger. We ground ourselves because it feels good. So our feet are on the ground and we feel the energy going between our feet and the earth, and between the earth and our feet. And if your attention wanders, bring it back to the bottom of your feet and allow yourself to feel. And how wonderful it is that you and I place our feet on sacred ground, ground that is sacred because it has existed since the beginning when the earth existed. Sacred because we are energetic, sacred beings and we are touching it. Sacred because the earth is our brother, sister. And sacred because we're awake and aware of this. And notice what you feel when your feet are on the ground, if you feel tingling or any energy moving between your feet and the ground. Notice with your attention on your feet if there's some other place in your body that is making movement. And now just allow the energy from Mother Earth to come rising up through your legs. Rising up through your calf muscles, all the way up to your knees, to your thighs. And now feel your butt as it sits on the chair, just as you did with your feet, the energy between your butt and the chair. And as I sit in this chair, I'm just so grateful that I am supported, that I am supported by the divine presence of love itself, that I am supported financially, that I am supported emotionally, that I am supported imaginally, that I am supported in consciousness, that I am supported with ideas, that the divine presence supports me in all ways. To my pelvis area, up to my belly button, up to my gut, my solar plexus, up to my chest, my heart, up to my throat and my third eye, up to the top of my head, up above my head and cascading down all around my body temple. Right where I am, God is, and right where you are, God is. So let's just take a moment to lean into the field energetically that surrounds us. And this is a field of information. Research now shows that the information may not be kept exclusively in our cells, but may actually be kept in the field that surrounds us. So let's lean into that field. And let's place the idea in the field that a miracle is unfolding right now. That the presence of God, the infinite presence of life herself, lives in this field. That all the qualities of God live in this field: love, peace, joy, health, wholeness, prosperity, abundance, patience, newness. All of it lives in the field. So let's imagine in this field that there is many miracles just waiting to give birth. And let's just lean our body energy into the field energy as a form of demonstrating acceptance. And the reality is that you and I experience miracles every single day and we just don't see them. And so the prayer request this day is that we may see, that we may witness, that we may be awake to the different miracles that exist in our life. And so repeat after me. I give thanks for the miracle that's making its way to me. I give thanks for the miracle in my field. I give thanks for the miracle that operates through me. I give thanks for the miracle that I'm awake to. I give thanks in advance for the scavenger hunt of miracles. And so, right now, in your mind's eye, I invite you to see all different levels of ages of yourself in iteration. See yourself as an infant, and see yourself as a toddler, and see yourself as an elementary school student, and as a junior high student, and as a teenager, and see yourself as a high school student, and as a car driver, and as a college student, if you went to college, if not a worker. And most of us worked in college anyway, so that age group in the 20s. And see yourself with family, with whatever unfolds in the different stages of your life between then and now. And that's kind of a miracle, isn't it? That our bodies change so dramatically as we go from one stage to another. And so I just give thanks for the many blessings that exist in my life and in your life and in our lives. I give thanks for all of the good that is unfolding, and I pray for the ability for you and for me and for us to see the unfoldment of these miracles. I give thanks for being alive on this planet today. I give thanks that, God willing, I'm alive on this planet tomorrow, that I'm here to harvest these miracles that have been felt in the field. I give thanks for all the iterations of myself. And I just notice if there's anywhere in my upbringing that I have forgotten to forgive myself, that I do so now. That if there is anywhere in my upbringing that I have forgotten to forgive another, I do so now. I am clean in consciousness, open to the many miracles that unfold. Grateful that I'm being used in service of the Most High. And so, not knowing the what unfolds or the when it unfolds, I just give thanks for the opportunity to sit in the energy field of the miraculous. That all iterations of myself, that all the different ways I see me or have seen me are all primed and pumped for this next beautiful miracle. I give thanks in advance for it. I give thanks that I recognize it and say, wow, I never thought this was possible, and it is. And I just give thanks for all of the good and the glory and the joy in my life and in the life of everyone listening to my voice. And I pray for the courage to see with the eye of God instead of the eyes of humanity. And I give thanks for the courage to be a place of blessing instead of a place of condemnation. And so, right here and right now, I just celebrate everything, everything, including my tears behind the car wheel. There is no shame in God. There is no limitation in God. There is no unworthiness in God. There is no small in God. It is all solid good expressed. And so, continuing to feel my feet on the ground and the energy surrounding me, I do give thanks. And I take a moment to feel that gratitude. And I release this prayer into the law of creation, giving thanks that God is always creating and recreating, and giving thanks that I am a witness and a participant in it. And so for this I give thanks, and I close by saying, and so it is, amen. All right, my dear sweet friends, my hands are back on my heart. I'm feeling my feet on the floor. I'm breathing, 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 breathing. So grateful to be here on a Tuesday, to be here with you whenever you listen to this. And I know, since there is no time and space in God, that whenever you hear it, it's absolute divine perfection. So may you continue to be blessed and a blessing. And I send you deep, deep, deep love. And so it is. Amen. Have a good week.